Welcome to the Alberta Legislature for Wednesday, May the 2nd, 1990. I'm David Carter, Speaker of the Legislature and member of the Assembly for Calgary-Egmont. No doubt during question period today we will have questions raised with respect to the illegal social workers strike. The estimates this afternoon will be those of the Department of Research and Telecommunications. As the House works its way through the various estimates of the departments, there is some hope that the budget estimates will be wrapped up on the main budget by Thursday, May the 10th, and that before the end of the month, all of the various other discussions with regard to Committee of Supply will be completed. Let us pray. O Lord, grant us a daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this legislative assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Oral notice that at this time tomorrow I intend to introduce Bill number 284, the Code of Ethics and Conduct Act, a new bill which addresses conflict of interest.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to give oral notice that under the provisions of Standing Order 40, I'd like to move the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly acknowledge Mental Health Week in Alberta by commending all those who work in the mental health field, especially those in underfunded community agencies and those struggling to develop comprehensive programs for children with mental health needs.
Introduction of bills.
Mr. Speaker, I will request leave to introduce Bill number 23, Agriculture Statutes Amendment Act 1990. This being a money bill, Her Honor, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of this bill, recommends the same to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the bill is to make some necessary amendments to the Hail and Crop Insurance Act, to the Livestock and Livestock Products Act, and to the Weed Control Act.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture has moved first reading of Bill 23, Agriculture Statutes Amendment Act 1990. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Almost slipped through second reading of a bill.
Bill number 23, Agriculture Statutes Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Isley, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Health.
A table with the Assembly the annual report of the Alberta Association of Optometrists for the fiscal year ended December 31, 1988, and the annual report of the Glen Rose Rehabilitation Hospital for the fiscal year ended March 31, 1989. Copies will be made available to all members.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
I would like to table a letter from the Dean of the Faculty of Social Work in Calgary indicating his agreement to assist in the social workers' dispute.
Thank you. Minister of Municipal Affairs.
I'm pleased to table 4 copies of the audited financial statement of the Special Areas Trust Fund ending in the period December 31st, 1989.
Introduction of special guests.
Honorable the Premier, followed by the Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the legislature a group of 71 students from Stettler Elementary School who are with us today. They're sitting in the members gallery. They're accompanied by their teachers, Karen Hayden, Don Falkenberg, Malcolm Fisher, and Ron Komiaki. In addition, their parents who are with them are Vivian Lowther, Val Wolonsky, Donna Jacobs, Val Delker, and bus drivers Mo Miles and Fern Lamoureux. I'd ask them to rise and be welcomed by the Assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Bernardo Herzer, who is a businessman from Honolulu, Hawaii, who is researching business opportunities within the province of Alberta. He's joined by Stan Fisher, and I would ask them both to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Legislative Assembly.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleague, the member for Edmonton Highlands, I'd like to introduce 11 people who are here visiting us for the first time from the Bissell Centre, which, as we know, is in the inner city of Edmonton. They're here with their teacher, Karen Green, and I'd ask that they please rise in the gallery and receive a very warm welcome from members of the Assembly.
Member for West Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the legislature some 40 hard-working social workers in the province of Alberta who are here to draw the attention of the government to need to go back to the table and negotiate a fair contract and add staff.
Thank you. Honourable member, that's inappropriate for introductions. Perhaps the social workers would care to rise and be recognized by the House. Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce 6 people from the Coralwood Junior Academy, 4 grade 10 students, and their 2 teachers, Anthony Reeves and Marilyn Menninger. I would request that they stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Member for Red Deer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Family and Social Services and myself are delighted to have with us today a group of students from Eastview School in Red Deer. They're seated in the public gallery, and we'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Take that to Mr. Doyle,
please. Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, this government is trying to paint the social workers of this province as on-caring lawbreakers. We've heard incredible, insulting rhetoric from this government about their so-called commitment to the collective bargaining process. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, that this government took away fundamental human rights away from these workers in 1977, and the social services system hasn't been the same ever since, Mr. Speaker.
This is a democracy.
These employees don't have the legal right to withdraw their services. You have stripped them of any power in the collective bargaining process. As a result, Mr. Speaker, social workers have sat by, angry and frustrated, Mr. Speaker, while caseloads have gone up. And finally, they're saying to this government, enough is enough, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier, how can you accuse social workers of walking away from the collective bargaining process when you know full well that that process is grossly unfair and doesn't work?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the honourable member is coming from. Yesterday, as I said, these are valued employees. These employees withdrew from the bargaining process. And I should draw the attention to the honourable member that, in fact, the bargaining process works most of the time, 99% of the time. In fact, we have a long period of time where the process works. The process has built into it a fair compulsory arbitration system. That is perfectly capable of being used. And I say these are valued employees, that they should participate fully in the bargaining process, not withdraw from it. And the other thing, I make it very clear, as I did yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and I gather now the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is joining the member from Glengarry, where they condone breaking the law. Because that is clearly the position, they are taking, that they are condoning breaking the law. Now, many people in this legislature, and I suppose throughout Alberta, do not like every law within the province. Nevertheless, we believe as members of the legislature that we must...
Order, please. Thank you very much. Let's supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, every dictator in a police state hides behind regressive laws, Mr. Speaker. That's precisely what this Premier's talking about. Talk about the law. What about the old man dam, Mr. Speaker? Building permits. You talk about the laws, Mr. Speaker. And my question again to the Premier is this. If they're valued employees, why don't you start treating them that way, Mr. Speaker? You're threatening them by fines, jail, and all the rest of it, Mr. Speaker. And my question flowing from that, doesn't the Premier realize, even he should realize, that these regressive laws are a joke and that the workers feel that they have no choice but to go to the streets at this particular time? Doesn't he realize that, Mr. Speaker?
Not at all, Mr. Speaker. And I think, as I pointed out, the bargaining process works and has worked 99% of the time. I say to the honourable member, as he just considers certain laws that should be upheld, what kind of judgment is that? What kind of member of the Legislative Assembly, where laws are made, democratically, could somehow be in a position of saying, we will only have certain laws we feel should be obeyed? And I tell him, Mr. Speaker, that brings no credit to a member of this Assembly.
Selective status.
Mr. Speaker, it brings no credit to this government that we have the worst labor laws in North America, Mr. Speaker. That's what I'm ashamed of, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and my question then, even the ILO of the United Nations criticized the government in precisely this law, Mr. Speaker. That should surely mean something to this Premier. And I want to ask him again to do the honorable thing and stop making criminals out of social workers and repeal this regressive law and get back to the bargaining table. Will he do that, Mr. Speaker?
Well, surely now we've just had a pile of rubbish. That the government is making criminals out of social workers? What nonsense is that? Mr. Speaker, as I said, these are valued employees, and they withdrew from the bargaining process. I urge them, because they are valued employees, to return to the bargaining process, because there will be no bargaining with people who are breaking the law. And I urge them to return and to work out a fair and equitable agreement. I'd also point out, Mr. Speaker, his comments regarding Alberta's labor laws are nonsense, since we have the best labor management record in Canada.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
This government really is living in the 19th century, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's go into another area, Mr. Speaker, and the proposed conflict changes in Judge Wakowicz's report include setting out ethical duties of members, Mr. Speaker. He says Alberta needs a law that says every member has, and I quote, a duty to exercise his office and powers in such a way as to maintain public confidence in the integrity of the institutions of government. Section 32C, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, surely the Premier realizes the power that MLAs, and especially government MLAs, have in their constituencies. Every penny in government funding that goes to these constituencies is turned over into a photo opportunity for that particular MLA. And Mr. Speaker, over the years, Albertans have learned that in Tory Alberta, it doesn't pay to bite the hand that feeds you. My question, Mr. Speaker, as long as MLAs are handing out checks for government money to communities, Mr. Speaker, doesn't the Premier agree that there's a need for strict rules to prevent abuse?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is mixing several arguments into his one question. I think that the report from the Walkowicz Commission, or the Conflict of Interest Commission, is a very good report. They are people who were commissioned by our government. We asked them to conduct a report. The report is some 254 pages long. The report has many good things. The honourable member has just isolated one of them. We're not going to deal with the report in that kind of an isolated way. That's irresponsible. We're dealing with the total report so that we can bring the results of that report to this legislature in the form of legislation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, people in Alberta know who's irresponsible, and that's that Premier sitting right across there. Mr. Speaker, the town of Smoky Lake is still saying that the MLA for Redwater Andrew owes it over $28,000 for his share of the cost of putting water and sewer services into his subdivision. Apparently, they've given up waiting on him to honor a gentleman's agreement, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier, does the Premier condone this sort of behavior by an MLA when he is dealing with local governments, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is raising the private matter of a member of this legislature.
Fully out of order. Thank you. Supplementary.
That's outrageous. He is an MLA in that area.
Honourable member, if you care to peruse Beauchesne, you'll see that it is out of order to be dealing with the private matters dealing with a member of the chamber. Sorry. What is the supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, when does the public duty for an MLA stop then? Can you go around and say, I'm a developer, I'm this, I'm that? I asked the Premier this, you know, and I can do anything I want as long as I say I'm not an MLA? Is that the type of behavior that we're condoning here, Mr. Speaker? Is that what the Premier's saying?
Well, Mr. Speaker, certainly not, and the honourable member knows that this is not the situation here. I draw to his attention that you, sir, called him out of order on his question. I was not trying to dodge it. You said he was wrong, so you're wrong, accept it.
You're wrong, that's it.
Order, please. Point of order.
Point of order. Thank you. While we're waiting for the point of order to transpire, perhaps the honourable member would like to look up Beauchesne 409, subsection 6. Thank you. Honourable member, order, honourable member. That's an inappropriate comment. The chair recognizes Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Speaker, your ruling accepted the fact that there was a need for an emergency debate on the issue involving social workers in Alberta. I expected, as a participant in that debate, along with many others from the opposition, to hear something from the government that would perhaps change my view as to whether the government's position was unreasonable or reasonable or whatever. Incredibly, Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible sat and said nothing through that whole 2-hour debate. All we heard was a comment from the Minister of Labour indicating that nothing would happen as long as the social workers were out. My question is to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, last time there was a serious strike involving public servants in Alberta, the Premier flew back from Palm Springs to show his concern. Would the Premier show that same concern by agreeing and committing to meet with the representatives of the union to just discuss the issue of overload of casework?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Family and Social Services is managing and handling the strike in the illegal strike. Make very clear that it's an illegal strike that the honourable member is condoning, and is prepared to respond.
Palm Springs on a charter.
Is that an answer?
No answer.
Well, I see he sits and he sits and he sits and he still doesn't give any answer. Mr. Speaker, I've tabled with the Assembly a letter from the Dean of the Faculty of Social Work at the University of Calgary. he indicates in that letter that he's prepared to assist in this dispute, and particularly, I think, with respect to the caseload, overworking of caseload. Would the minister agree to use the services of this expert, an expert that the government themselves have used to try to resolve this strike? And I think if the caseload issue is looked at quickly, this whole matter will be resolved very quickly.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're very anxious to see this thing resolved. And I think the first step has to be to have both parties back at the negotiating table. Inciting debate in this legislative assembly isn't going to solve an illegal strike. We're anxious to get on with that debate. I'd be interested in seeing the letter that the leader of the Liberal Party has brought forward, and if there's some thoughtful suggestions there that can help to resolve the solution or the situation, we're receptive to looking at proposals, receptive to looking at alternatives. But the first step, Mr. Speaker, the first step has to be social workers sitting down at the negotiating table. Now, they're telling us that talks have broke off, and I understand that happens sometimes in negotiations, so you bring in a mediator. But, Mr. Speaker, if they're not at least prepared to sit down and work with the help of the mediator, I don't see how we can resolve this situation. So the solution, Mr. Speaker, is meaningful discussions, meaningful negotiations. We're anxious to be a part of that. I just wish they were too.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased that the minister is prepared to look at the letter and to consider this offer of help. My last question is to the minister. It's my information, Mr. Speaker, that the Edmonton Social Services Office has not been asked for support. It's my information that there are no contingency plans, no special phone numbers, no ads, no nothing that can tell, anything that can tell Albertans where they can go with problems dealing with children or otherwise. I'd like to know specifically from the minister for the third time, what are the details of his contingency plan to deal with this very serious matter?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party is quite right. Obviously, services have been disrupted, particularly here in the city of Edmonton. All I can say is that we have a very dedicated team of managers and middle managers out there working extremely long, hard hours right now on behalf of Albertans, on behalf of children who require our care, on behalf of senior citizens, on behalf of the handicapped. And we're doing everything we can to provide those essential and emergent services. But no question, Mr. Speaker, these services have been disrupted substantively. I mean, the reason that we have the legislation in place that we do is to protect those Albertans, those very vulnerable Albertans that rely on those services on a day-to-day basis. Mr. Speaker, the solution, again, is for cooler heads to prevail, for social workers to really think through the position that they're in today, and to come back to the negotiating table after they get back to work and provide those essential services that are suffering at this time.
Scalaclabish, followed by West Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Honourable Minister of Family and Social Services. We have an illegal strike out there by Alberta social workers. And we have thousands of Albertans out there that will no doubt suffer because of the strike. Mr. Speaker, I have raised a concern in this House on numerous times, and even made specific recommendations to improve the delivery system by coordinating the services provided by family and social services and career development and employment, and the need to provide jobs and training as an alternative to the welfare system, the very jobs both the official opposition leader and the Liberal leader and their team work every day trying to cancel those jobs, and they pretend to care for people on welfare. My question to the Honourable Minister is, will the Honourable Minister give some assurance to this Assembly that his department will implement these innovative recommendations that will relieve some of the caseloads of the social workers and provide an alternative to people on welfare.
Mr. Speaker, we're always looking for new ways and better ways and innovative concepts for addressing the
Honourable Minister. All members have a right to be heard in the Assembly, but hopefully one at a time. And in question period, when someone gets a chance to ask a question, hopefully they get a chance to listen to the answer without having to engage in chit-chat or some kind of verbal tennis match with other members on the same side of the House. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member asks a very important question. The member wants to know what can we do to reduce the caseload as being part of the solution to reducing the number of cases that social workers have to handle. Mr. Speaker, we are constantly looking for new and innovative concepts, new methods of delivering our services, new methods of helping those Albertans that find themselves on social allowance. And it certainly, this member has brought forward some good alternatives, some good suggestions, and certainly there are things that we're taking into consider as we look at our social reform here in the province of Alberta. I would want to assure the member that I'm working very closely with all my colleagues in caucus and in cabinet, but in particular with the Minister of Career Development and Employment, and that together I'm sure that we'll be able to continue to come up with new and innovative concepts that will help to take us into the 90s and will help us to address this societal challenge.
Parliamentary Athabasca Lac-La-Biche.
Supplement, now that the Minister has committed the Minister of Career Development and Employment, my supplement is to the Minister of Career Development and Employment. Will the Honourable Minister give some assurance to this House that he will also implement these recommendations jointly with the Department of Family and Social Services?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the representation made by the Honourable Member for Lac-La-Biche Athabasca, and pleased to advise him and as well all Honourable Members of the Assembly then that as the Minister of Family and Social Services indicated that we're working very closely with them and will continue to do so, and with both the Minister and Associate Minister, and I'm pleased to announce that we have several pilot projects underway at this time. And as recent as yesterday, I've met with the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services and the Honourable Member for Grand Prairie, and reviewing a pilot project within that specific constituency as well. We'll continue to review and assess and monitor the programs we have in place, and I will commit to Mr. Speaker to undertake and report back to the Honourable Member with regards to his own constituency, and see if we can help. The main objective of the Minister and Associate Minister of Family and Social Services, our objective as well, is to reduce the caseload by hopefully help in creating positive work for those individuals. And if we can provide the training and assistance necessary, we will commit to do so.
West Yellowhead.
In the past few months, Mr. Speaker, the official opposition has received numerous phone calls, letters and visits from the people of Whitecourt expressing frustration about the fact that this government is either refusing or stalling to release the test results done on fly ash from the TP burner at Miller Western, which until recently was in the middle of town. Now, I know the Minister of the Environment is going to get up and say that the TP burner was recently moved, but that's really not the point. The point is that the residents of Whitecourt and every Albertan have every right to know what the fly ash has done to that area and how it's polluted the air and the water of that community. To the Minister of the Environment, Mr. Speaker, I wonder, given that there has been a delay in the release of the test results on the second sample of fly ash taken by Alberta Environment, is the reason that these tests were sent for further analysis because they showed potential dangerous levels, or do they have toxic substances?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there was no delay. There was a thorough examination, a scientific examination of the situation. Now, just listen here, okay? Pay attention, because I received my department received the report yesterday, I received it today. I've had a chance to look at a summary of the report. There is absolutely no danger to health. My officials will be going to White Court tomorrow to meet with the townspeople to give them a full scientific explanation of the findings, and I'm sure that everyone will be completely satisfied that there is no danger whatsoever in White Court or vicinity.
I can't help but wonder, Mr. Speaker, why the minister would be so reluctant to release this. Unless the results of the two samples show the fly ash is really toxic. I wonder if the minister can tell Albertans and the people of White Court when the fly ash results will be available for the public.
Mr. Speaker, you know, this is sometimes a real exercise in futility. I just explained that my officials will be going to White Court tomorrow with the report in their hands to explain to the people of White Court the scientific findings. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, just for some clarification, that the pollution samples found in White Court are probably no different than the samples that could be found on this carpet in the legislature, and I dare say that the pollution would be much more on that side.
Point of order.
Oh, my goodness. Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me file with the House 6 copies of a clipping from the Lakeside Leader pertaining to community facility enhancement project funding, and 6 copies of a letter addressed to the member of Calgary McKnight from the minister responsible for lotteries. Mr. Speaker, in the letter that the minister responsible for lotteries has sent to the member for Calgary McKnight, it stated, and I'll quote, "Although every attempt will be made to provide assistance on an equitable and province-wide basis, the prime consideration will be need." And again, I'll stress, the prime consideration will be need in relationship to the allocation of community facility enhancement program funding. And in a newspaper clipping, along with comments that were also made, publicly made by the members on Vermilion and McLeod, but in a newspaper clipping, the member from Slave Lake has stated, and I quote, my community facility enhancement program funds are pretty much committed at this point. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, can the Premier tell me why Tory writings appear to have specific allocations of community facility enhancement program dollars?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that the minister is unable to be here because of a dentist appointment. We'll certainly take the member's question on notice, and he'll respond to it when he returns.
Don't you know where your patronage is going?
Mr. Speaker, it's becoming extremely frustrating attempting to get some responses. But, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, and I would ask the Premier to listen very carefully to this question. Mr. Speaker, would the Premier direct the minister responsible for lotteries to report to this House whether the cost for the volunteer sweatshirts, the TV commercials featuring the Premier, the briefcases, and any such goodies, as to whether funding came directly from the budget of the Wild Rose Foundation, or did the funding come from other lottery funds? the Community Facility Enhancement Program funding, or some other more complex method of...
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you. This is starting to sound like a motion for a return.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I listened carefully, and now having heard it, I wonder why.
Well, you listen carefully.
Frankly, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member wants certain things produced in the legislature. He knows that he should be putting motions for return on the order paper, and they'll be produced if the House wants them to be produced.
For Bow Valley. Bow Valley, followed by Calgary Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Honorable Solicitor General, and lately I've had several telephone calls from people who had been charged with impaired driving. They understood that they had a 6 months suspension of their license, and sometime later, after they had felt that they had served most of their suspension, they were informed they had a 12-month suspension. My question to the Minister, is it not possible to inform these people at the time they're in court the length of their suspension?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the honourable member is referring to is the administrative suspension on drinking driving charges. The courts can only sentence that which is they have power to do within the criminal code on drinking driving charges. That's 6 months on the first offense, 1 year on the 1 or 2 years on the second, and 3 years on the third. Administratively, under Section 109 of the Provincial Legislation Motor Vehicle Administration Act, the sentences are actually prolonged by the provincial statute to 1 year on the first offense, 3 years on the second offense, and 5 years on the third offense if they are committed all within a 5-year period. We have put out that information to as great a degree as possible. However, we believe it is the responsibility of defense counsel to point this out to their client at the time of sentencing. And however, we can discuss with the Chief Judge the possibility of explaining that at the time of the actual sentencing.
Mr. Speaker, I would just ask the Honourable Solicitor General if this differs from the way it's handled in other provinces.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of any other province that is as tough on drinking drivers as we are, and I have no personal knowledge of this time of provincial legislation which extends the period of disqualification from driving.
Calgary Mountain View, followed by West Loch Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, in response to my questions concerning the government's gag order on prosecutors making submissions to the Native Justice Task Force, the Solicitor General responded, and I quote from Hansard, "The truth is that none of the prosecutors have been told they cannot in fact appear before this inquiry." And he went on to say, "We do expect and welcome individual prosecutors to bring forward their personal views to this inquiry as well." Yet, Mr. Speaker, the memo from the Director of Special Prosecutions, Mr. Davey, to all Chief Crown Prosecutors states, and I quote, "It would be inappropriate for any single office or Crown prosecutor to make submissions to the task force." Mr. Speaker, given the contradiction between these statements, not to mention the obvious confusion of the government on the issue, will the Attorney General undertake to send a clear and unambiguous message to Crown prosecutors indicating that they're free, if they wish, to make representations as individuals or on behalf of their district offices, or indeed, if they wish, on behalf of the Alberta Crown Attorneys Association?
Mr. Speaker, the only inconsistency is with the honourable member. We clearly said that any Crown prosecutor that wished to make a representation to the task force is available and can make it. They will not make a statement on behalf of the department. Those will be coordinated. The Attorney General is charged with administration of justice in this province, and he will be the spokesman for the department.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the original request that went forward to Mr. Davies from the Wetaskiwin prosecutor makes no mention about requesting to represent the department. It was a request to whether individual prosecutors can make written submissions, and I wish to file 5 copies with the legislature, Mr. Speaker, to support my contention. Given the Attorney General's refusal this afternoon to lift these gag orders, and given the unduly narrow mandate of the task force to hear submissions only from groups, organizations, and associations, will the Attorney General now agree that he will amend the terms of reference so that all interested individuals, like Crown prosecutors, can make free and complete representations?
Mr. Speaker, the task force is under the jurisdiction of the Solicitor General, so I couldn't make the change in the terms of reference if I so desired. I have made it very, very clear that anyone under the jurisdiction of the Attorney General can come forward and make their personal presentation to that task force. The chairman of the task force, Justice Causey, has made it very, very clear that they're also, he will, as the chairman, receive those representations, whether it's from the police, whether it's from the Crown prosecutors, or whatever. Mr. Speaker, I usually like to respect the people, the colleagues across the way, and the Honourable attest to them. The only gag with the member from Mountain View is the one between his ears. That's it.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, most people know that since 1979 this government has poured $60 to $63 million, possibly more, into their canola oil crushing plant in the Sexsmith area, represented by Senator Claghorn over here, but the Sexsmith area of the Peace River Company. Now, this 100% taxpayer-owned plant, Mr. Speaker, announced on April the 16th, and I tabled 4 copies of it, that they had appointed McKay Seeds, their exclusive contractor, to collect canola contracts, but more importantly, to grant interest-free credit to farmers or seed growers from seeding time till fall. My question to the minister, Mr. Speaker, is why did the minister authorize the exclusive contract to print money, you might say, shutting out dozens of tax-paying seed-producing companies in this province exclusively to McKay Seeds, owned by Mr. McKay and a Mr. Brian Moore?
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. Let's not go on at such great length.
Mr. Speaker, the first part of the Honourable Member's question I can relate to a bit, and I can share with the House that his figures are wrong, and I'll get the accurate figures for him. The second part I will have to take on notice. I would remind the Honourable Member that the Alberta Terminal Canola Crushing Limited is run by a board of directors. It is not run by the Minister of Agriculture, but I will take the question on notice.
Mr. Speaker, bit of preamble, Financial Post announced March 1988 that the provincial government had put $61 million in. That's 2 years ago, so the total's gone far beyond what I suggested now. Mr. Speaker, the final question then is, would he look into this matter then? Would he give the assurance to the House now that the Alberta government, through the Alberta terminals, has no intention of giving an exclusive right to grant interest at the taxpayer's expense or to obtain contracts for canola seed?
Mr. Speaker, that's rather difficult to do because the Honourable Member is now talking about Alberta Terminals, I assume meaning Alberta Terminals Limited, which is another operation run by a different Board of Governors. So I will have to read Hansard to see if I can understand what the Honourable Member is talking about.
Calgary Milliken.
Mr. Speaker, in the city of Calgary, the
affordable rental housing stock is becoming more and more scarce. The city of Calgary is, in their infinite wisdom, has decided at this time to shut down a lot of the non-conforming suites in the city of Calgary, and I guess the number of non-conforming suites run into the hundreds and hundreds, and this is perhaps the most affordable housing, the housing that's the $300 to $400 range, and then the city at the same time is talking of putting up a couple of $1 million. They have a surplus of a couple of million to go into housing, which may build 20 or 30 units at best at today's prices. And I have a question for the Minister of Municipal Affairs, who's in charge of Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Could he advise the Assembly, is he trying to gear up some kind of a program? We got something going somewheres that's going to build some affordable rental housing in the city of Calgary.
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, we have been working very closely with the Alberta Builders Association, the City of Calgary, and also some of the groups that are assisting in affordable housing. At the present, to put housing on the market takes a period of time. The interest rates that we're facing at the present time have, the high interest rates of the federal government have deadened the opportunity for new building units in the city of Calgary. So we're having a very difficult time with that. Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, I intend in the next couple of weeks to spend some time with the Mayor of Calgary looking at not only the question of non-conforming suites, but certainly other opportunities for affordable housing.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. As these non-conforming suites are perhaps the most affordable housing in that city, and there are so many of them, would the Honourable Minister please broach, I guess it's a very difficult topic because it's the city of Calgary's domain, their area to handle, and yet it's so serious. I've been calls often and regular now of people that are getting evicted with nowhere to go. Could you broach the subject with them? Could they possibly consider a moratorium on evicting these people out of the non-conforming suites until we get some housing going or something breaks or there's some ease up?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member.
Speaker, to the honourable member, I think the point is very well taken under the circumstances where vacancy rates are very low and rental rates are increasing quite rapidly. And I think it's a time of innovation, and that's certainly a good suggestion, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Minister of Health can no longer delay or dodge or defer this very important issue about the inadequate funding this year for quality hospital services in the light of a very well-deserved 13% raise for nurses in an agreement that was ratified by 97% of registered nurses in the province last night and ratified by the Alberta Hospital Association today. So I'm going to ask the Minister of Health if she will finally today commit to the people of Alberta and to those who work in the hospital sector that quality services for people will not be compromised with closed beds, user fees, longer waiting lists, and all the rest because of the lack of inadequate funding from this minister this year.
Mr. Speaker, I applaud the work that's going on in the hospital and health sector across this province, and I thank them publicly for the support they are giving to this government to help us through the fiscal difficulties that exist. I will confirm for the honourable member today that because of the ratification of the agreement last night, work can now begin on looking at the review that I promised last November when I was first asked what would be the result of a ratified agreement. That review has commenced today. I will look forward to reporting to the honourable member in the coming weeks and months.
Well, here we go, reviewing and reporting when the minister knew this was on the agenda and on the table at least since last January. So I want to ask the minister when she's going to stop reviewing the matter and come with her officials to sit down with the boards of the hospitals throughout this province and to hear firsthand from them how they just can't keep up with inflation costs, salary costs, and the needs of sicker patients with only a 3% increase this year. Yeah. When's she going to meet with them?
Mr. Speaker, I meet with hospitals and health units and mental health clinics and workers across this province constantly, but I am not willing to stand in this legislature and say that I will simply willy-nilly look at something without a very careful review in terms of spending taxpayers' dollars in this province. I will not do it. We are going to do a review. We are going to do a review of the settlement that has now been ratified by our nurses across this province. That will occur, but it will not occur within the timeline that the honourable member from Edmonton Centre keeps demanding.
Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, in response to school finance questions, the Premier said that fiscal equity in education funding was a large part of the education budget, but in fact it's only 5% of the department budget. A concrete example of unequal access for students exists in the Fairview School Division, which receives so little money that it will be forced to implement cuts in every program. In view of the fact that the Minister has publicly assured the have-not boards that they will be brought into line with the so-called richer boards, what is he going to do to assist the Fairview School Division this budget year to overcome their $100,000 equity grant shortfall?
The honourable member can play games with numbers, 5%. Fact is, it is $68 million in taxpayers' dollars that are devoted to fiscal equity funding to a number of school boards, some 130 school boards across the province. And quite rightly, the honourable member pointed out that the Fairview School Division is in receipt of fiscal equity funding. That school division spends on the average amount of money that's spent on per student on Alberta students in this province, and will continue. And we, as a government, will continue to support the fiscal equity needs of that school jurisdiction. But as I've said in this assembly, and my estimates, Mr. Speaker, that we have a responsibility to better meet those needs, and that is why I've laid out that commitment. Why this government has laid out this commitment to find a better way of meeting the needs of those poorer school jurisdictions so that they can provide the best possible education to all of their students.
Mr. Speaker, this minister also suggested in this year's estimates that the first time he heard about the issue was in the School Act debate of 1988. But equity has been a problem since long before that, and a few computers and fax machines called distance education just aren't going to make the difference. Is the minister prepared to assure these small, remote, rural boards that he will bring in a fair and adequate equity funding formula this year?
Mr. Speaker, provincial taxpayers contribute $2.3 billion to the cost of education in this province. On average, that is in a classroom of 30 students, $150,000 to each and every classroom in this province. Mr. Speaker, that is a significant contribution by Alberta taxpayers, and we will continue to support quality education in this province through the fiscal equity program, through distance learning, and through the variety of school programs that this government proudly provides to the students of Alberta.
Time for question period has expired. Perhaps we could deal with a housekeeping matter at this time. Earlier today, the chair received a copy of a letter from the government House Leader with copies to the House Leaders for the New Democrats and for the Liberal Party. And the essential element within this is a procedural thing with regard to the ending of question period, and the chair concurs. Nevertheless, the chair should read the item to the House. Each party in the Assembly has already agreed to provide unanimous consent each day to complete his or her series of questions. It may be preferable to have consent to allow questions to be completed automatically. At the end of the series of questions, Mr. Speaker could then declare the question period is over. And in that regard, that's what we will indeed put into effect starting tomorrow. Now, with regard to, we have 2 points of order with regard to question period. We have a standing order 40 request and another item or two. But first, I wonder if we might have unanimous consent to revert to the introduction of special guests. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Member for Dunvegan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly 12 students from the taking a transitional vocational program at the Fairview College. They are accompanied by 3 teachers, Ken Pryor, Sue Fox, and Maureen Wasson. I believe they're sitting in the members' gallery, and I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Thank you. Before dealing with the points of order, the Chair would like to point out that at least one member of Cabinet seems to, together with his wife, done more than beyond the call of duty with regard to the celebration of Education Week. And so on behalf of the House, I'd like to extend congratulations to the Honourable Mr. Dinning, the Minister of Education, and his wife on the birth of their son. Leader. Point of order first is with regard to the Leader of the Opposition. Just half a moment, sir.
Question period, and one of my questions, I believe the second one, you ruled out of order and suggested we look at 4096, Mr. Speaker, where it says a question must be within the administrative competence of the government. Mr. Speaker, it goes on to say the minister to whom the question is directed is responsible to the House for his or her present ministry and not for any decisions taken in a previous portfolio. Mr. Speaker, the whole thrust of what I was talking about has to do with the Code of Ethics, Mr. Speaker, and the conduct of MLAs in doing their business, Mr. Speaker. We're trying to find out from this government when an MLA is an MLA and when they are not, Mr. Speaker. And it seems that it reflects in all this House that we determine how people operate as MLAs. In this particular case that I was raising, Mr. Speaker, it's an MLA that delivers checks, operates with the local government, and owes them money at the same time. And I was trying to relate that to the Code of Ethics bill that was very clear, Mr. Speaker. That's one of the concerns that Mr. Walkowicz had, Mr. Speaker. And it's precisely, what I was referring to. I was trying to get to the Premier, who is in charge of all the government, in his competence, Mr. Speaker, and certainly the roles of the MLAs, about I think the question was, does the Premier condone this sort of behavior by an MLA when he is dealing with local governments, Mr. Speaker? I suggest to you that I think that it was in the competence of the Premier, who is in charge of the overall government and certainly in charge of how local MLAs conduct themselves, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair has had occasion to review the blues, and the difficulty is that in the Honourable Member's preamble, he was speaking with regard to the town of Smoky Lake and the matter of a certain amount of money that is alleged to be in arrears with regard to tax on some, or services with regard to a piece of property. That was the portion of the preamble which was causing the problem, which led to the matter then being ruled out of order. There are indeed other citations within Beauchesne, and the real difficulty here, of course, is keeping it within a question being directed, in this case, to the Premier, or in other cases to the Cabinet Minister, dealing with something that's truly within their competence to be able to respond to, or the responsibility. So in addition to 4096, subsection 6, one needs to refer to Beauchesne 410, subsection 10. The subject matter questions must be within the collective responsibility of the government or the individual responsibilities of the minister. And dealing with a matter of whether or not a member has paid his taxes is really not within the responsibility of the government to have to be dealing with. Same, one should also look for a reference with regard to Beauchesne 412, which again deals with similar aspects of that. However, within Erskine, Maine, there are a number of other citations to be made. One comes from page 285. Questions addressed to ministers should relate to the public affairs with which they are officially connected, to proceedings pending in Parliament, or to matters of administration for which they are responsible. And again, in reflection upon the preamble that was offered by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, that really then would make the question out of order in that regard. Again, on page 287 of Erskine May, personal reflections. It is not in order in a question to reflect on the character or conduct of those persons whose conduct may only be challenged on a substantive motion, nor is it permissible to reflect on the conduct of other persons otherwise than in their official or public capacity. And the chair realizes that in the course of questions in the last 2 weeks with regard to the whole matter, there's been a very fine line that's being treaded by those raising the questions as well as those answering the questions, as well as the chair having to deal with whether the questions are indeed admissible. Again, Erskine May 289, ministerial responsibility. Questions to ministers must relate to matters for which those ministers are officially responsible. Again, that didn't seem to apply to the preamble that was offered. The chair will not go on to quote from Erskine May, but would also offer these citations at page 290, subsection 3, page 291, subsection 7. The chair also would bring to attention of all members that on December the 3rd of 1987, this House indeed ruled on similar questions, and the ruling was such that questions had been directed to the Premier of a personal nature. And again, the chair ruled that out of order because ministers are to be held accountable for matters officially connected with their public responsibilities. Finally, honorable members would be good enough to turn to Beauchesne, page 141, with the citation of 484, subsection 3. A member will not be permitted by the Speaker to indulge in any reflections on the House itself as a political institution, or to impute to any member or members unworthy motives for their actions in a particular case. And that, of course, applies to, in many respects, to the whole issue that's been before the House for some considerable period of time, but it also deals in particular with regard to the comments made in the preamble today with regard to whether or not the tax situation had any relevance here. That's the reason why the ruling was given, in spite of honorable members shaking their heads. Edmonton Jasper Place and Meadowlark also having... I'm sorry, honorable member, but that's... Edmonton Meadowlark, do you also have a point of order after Edmonton Jasper Place?
I have a point of order which I'd be happy to do before he does it.
Sorry, Edmonton Jasper Place.
Section 495 of Beauchesne deals generally with the conditions under which documents cited in this assembly must be tabled. Subsection 1 refers to ministers reading from or quoting from dispatches. Subsection 2, I draw particularly the attention of the chair. A document which has been cited ought to be laid upon the table if it can be done without injury to the public interest. And there's subsection 5 elaborates this point very clearly. To be cited, a document must be quoted or specifically used to influence the debate. Well, today the Minister of the Environment clearly used a document in his possession in an attempt to influence debate over the Miller Western fly ash issue. There are two sets of data, one from material handed in by the people in the community. That material has never been made available. They've been told, well, we're getting a second opinion. Then the second opinion comes, and today the minister refused to lay that document on the table. My point would be that he cannot, under 495 subsection 5, use that document to influence the debate without laying it on the table. It's very important data, and it's very important to the interests of people in the community. It's like if you went to a doctor and they said, we can't give you the results because we don't want to alarm you, we're going to have a second opinion. Of course you're going to be alarmed, and that's another reason for having a documents table, but 495 sub 5 makes it quite clear on influencing debate.
Minister, on the same point of order from the Liberal Caucus, all right, Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would like to emphasize the points made by my colleague from Edmonton, Jasper Place, by way of agreement. I agree with his analysis. He is right. I would also like to emphasize one further point, and that is that the minister seemed to be saying that, well, everything's going to be okay because I'm going to release the results of this study tomorrow in the community. Well, I want to underline what a vacuous statement that in fact can be. The Minister of Occupational Health and Safety said, with respect to the first study that was done into that fly ash, the one requested by residents of Whitecourt, that he too would release those results. Well, what he did in fact was reinterpret those results through a press release, and in fact the document, the results, conclusions, the document done by Envirotest Labs in the first case was never released, and one of the critical pieces of information that we had been led to believe existed in that document was never released and confirmed for public consumption. My fear is that the minister who did influence debate by utilizing this document will tomorrow say that he's released the document when in fact it's very unlikely that he will. If he's going to release it to people in Whitecourt, he should definitely be releasing it here today to us. There can be no argument against that.
Well, Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, citing 495 of Beauchesne subsection 4, subsection 3, a public document referred to but not cited or quoted by a minister need not be tabled. And referring to subsection 5, to be cited, a document must be quoted or specifically used to influence debate. At no time, Mr. Speaker, did I hold in front of, in my hand and for the viewing of members of the opposition or anyone else for that matter, a document. I said, Mr. Speaker, that I had received a document.
Honorable members, all, please. Points of order, it's difficult enough to try to get things unraveled from time to time. Perhaps it'd be good enough to be quiet so I could at least hear what the minister is saying. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I held in my hand was this piece of paper, basically which contains some notes that I made very, very quickly because I haven't had a chance to read the report. I received a briefing from one of my officials, and I thought the best thing to do under the circumstance, in order that there's no confusion relative to the scientific evidence, is to have those officials, those scientists, those specialists, go to the town of Whitecourt and give the people the scientific explanation that they so deserve. And I think that that's the fair way to handle the situation. The document, once it's released to the townspeople in Whitecourt and vicinity, will in fact become a public document. I would suggest that if the honourable members want the document, or anyone else for that matter, perhaps they should go to Whitecourt.
Well, thank you. Order, please. Order. Perhaps the member for Edmonton Kingsway would reflect upon what he has said, that it perhaps applies to himself as well. Well, The difficulty, once again, is this. We've had it earlier this week. The Minister of Health made reference to a letter. The Minister of Health, in the opinion of the Chair, did not quote from the document, did not cite the document, just acknowledged the existence of a particular document. At that time, the Chair then called for the blues and compared what the Minister had said in question period, compared that together with the document which was kindly supplied by the Minister of Health. And at that time, the Minister did not cite, did not quote, but because the letter had been distributed to the media by the writer of the document, then the matter was indeed brought to this House. Now, in the opinion of the Chair, having sat and listened to what transpired in question period, the Minister acknowledged that there was a document in existence. The Chair indeed will review the blues, but it did not appear that the Minister at that time was quoting from a particular document, was not citing. The word citing is a very interesting one. If you go back to dictionary, honorable members, it's difficult to determine what citing really does mean. As to influence of debate, that point as well, the Minister has acknowledged that a document is there. The Minister has undertaken the document will be released to the people or some persons in the White Court area tomorrow. The Minister has stood up and said that he did not have the document in his possession in the House. Instead, he was referring to some briefing notes. Therefore, the Chair feels that the Chair will ask for a copy of the briefing notes, a copy of the document, to see if indeed there was citing done or quotation. And the Chair would also like to see the original document, and the Chair will have to report back to the House tomorrow. But it's indeed a very difficult area, and it's one which the Chair has on occasion spoken to the House Leader for the government to caution members of Cabinet that it is indeed a gray area as to when is a document being quoted, cited, referred to, used to influence debate. Thank you. Now, before we get around, for the purposes of the television coverage, you may regard this your duties as an end as of now. Thank you. Standing Order 40 request, the member for